Hello, my friends. Today we're going to talk about manifesting, consciousness, God, and chakras. Hello, my friends. My name is JC, and I'm your physical ascension guide. And today, let's start with a comment from JU555 about chakras. This person says that they had an experience where they had energy moving through their chakras, and they didn't have the type of experience that I did when I opened my third eye, but they were feeling something in their body, right? So what I want to say is that nobody can say what you experienced. So I can't sit here and say you didn't experience that or you did or whatever, right? Your experience is your experience. So I want to say that. But what I can confidently say is that you did not have energy moving through your chakra points. Okay, what you're told are chakra points, and this energy work isn't real. Okay, we need to stay grounded in reality. And the reality, this is why people don't like reality, is because you have to do something. You have to put forth energy and effort to have a end product. Okay, so you can't just lay there and be like, "Oh, I feel good," you know. That's not what it is. There's these chakra points aren't even located where they tell you that they're located. What they really are physical pumps inside your body. Okay, they're not just some imaginary energy points in your body. They're real physical pumps. You could cut them out of your body. Okay? And they're pumping a real oil and fluid through your body. You can squeeze it out. It's real. It's not imaginary. It's not just energy going through your chakras. Okay? So you could be feeling something going through your body. I'm not saying that. You're not. But it's not energy going through your chakra points. That's, it could be totally something else. It could be energy doing something, of course. Like Reiki, they use energy in that work. But for one, a lot of that is misunderstood, so they're not even doing it right, and they're treating the external field. They're not doing anything to the internal physical at all. So they're not really doing anything. They're just playing around with energy field. And it's not, that energy field is not what's stopping you from ascension. Okay? What's stopping you from ascension, for one, it's yourself. You could be calcified. So you need to decalcify. It could be your diet as part of it. Maybe you're not following the full protocol. That's why we need to not live in sin, because sin is living in a way that stops this internal process from occurring. That's what it really is. And yes, your thoughts actually affect that, right? So again, we are dealing with energy in a way, but it's not what you think. It's not what we've been told. Okay? So we have to redirect that and make it actually really useful. Okay? And this all kind of ties in together, because what they've done is they've got you to do nothing, right? So just like the Christians, they got you to do nothing. And that's the biggest mistake that all of us are making, is that we think that it's just thoughts and beliefs and stuff like that, and that we don't have to do anything. And we're going to experience something later on. Well, the experience is right now, and you have to do something. You have to put forth energy. So the equation is thought, energy, matter. So let me put it to you this way, okay? Say I want to write a book, okay? So I can't just go write a book. I have to think, what am I going to write about? What's it going to be? How's it going to look? Or, all this stuff, what's going into the book. So you have to have thought first, consciousness. Then you have to put energy into it. That's the big mistake, is everyone's like, oh, yes, you can think about it and you magnetize to it and you can attract it, but you can't just sit in your basement and think about a Lamborghini and it's going to appear. That's not how it works. The key point that everyone misses when it comes to manifesting or ascension or anything else in the world is that you have to think about it, make a plan, then you have to put energy into it. You have to create it. You are the creator, right? So consciousness times energy, and you can't do addition because that's just stacking. We're not stacking. We're creating friction, right? We're generating. So you have thought times energy times matter equals fusion, right? So it's a repeating process. It's in everything. That's how everything in the universe works. So you have this book. You thought about it. You put energy into it. Now I'm writing it out. Okay? Now it becomes matter. It's at the printing company. They're getting ready to print it. Right? They got the pages together. They're printing it out, putting it together for me. That's matter. So now you have consciousness times energy times matter. And what does that create? That creates fusion, right? So now I have this complete book. And now I can sell it or give it away or do whatever I want with it, right? But I have something that's material that came from thought, purely from thought. So, excuse me. So, and then there's really no state of rest, because immediately after that, okay, you have the fusion. Immediately after that, my mind's back. Okay, now what? What's the next project? What's the next step? Am I trying to sell this? You know, do I got work to do, marketing, stuff like that, or do I have another project over here? You know, so it's right back into it. So it's a continuous loop. So if you pull out one of those things, those three things, you're not going to get fusion. So you can sit here and think about it all you want. If you don't put energy towards it and deal with matter, you're not going to create anything. You can sit here and think about it all your whole life and nothing's going to happen, right? So you have to complete the equation. You have to think about it. You have to put energy towards it and create it. That makes you the creator. That's how powerful you are. You can just think of something and go make it. Right? That's what they're talking about. You are the creator. You have the power of God in you. A dog can't do that. A spider can't do that. A monkey, a pig, no animal can do what we can do. That's why I'm always harping that you have to do something. You have to do something. You have to move. You have to, when you're trying to ascend, you have to squeeze these pumps in your body and push this oil through. You have to live a certain way. If you are sitting there jerking off all the time, it ain't going to work, because that's part of the fluids, right? So if you take out a section of the process, it ain't going to work. If you are just laying around thinking that you're going to ascend with energy, it ain't going to work. There's more to it. And even if you are not doing anything and you're let's say you're just taking the cell salts, because the cell salts apparently help, because last month I went off the rails. I'm kind of nervous about this month. You know, you're still doing something. For one, you're taking salts for your body, but you won't be able to sit still and just not do anything. You know, and you still have to have certain thoughts and stuff, right? And where is all this going? So I thought that opening my third eye was just, you know, I was going to be intuitive and be able to attract money and stuff like that. Like, life would be easier. And that's not what it ended up being about at all. And that's same with that last little book I wrote. You know, I thought that was going to be about math, and it wasn't about math at all. It comes down to showing you that the universe is alive. It's alive. It's really alive. And you can experience it firsthand. And that is what we call God. And, you know, people are always like, well, you know, you can't prove that God exists. And you're right. I can't. But what I can do for you is lead you to how to experience God yourself firsthand, now, while you're alive. That I can do. All right? But it's up to you. You have to put forth energy to get the result. And I'll show you how, because that's what I did. And that's not what I set out to do. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to open my third eye and meet God. And I didn't know that those two were connected or anything. I didn't really have a clue to what I was doing. I did it and kind of had to back engineer what happened. And, I had no idea that I was going to see the Creator or have that type of experience or anything. Didn't set out for that. I was just trying to feel like I mattered in the world. And that word matter keeps coming up for me. But I'm sure I've told you this before if you watched my channel, but I got to tell you this little story real quick. It was when I was getting a divorce, and I was just feeling really low, and I felt like I just didn't matter in this world at all. And I wrote this little tiny poem, My Atoms Don't Matter. And about 2 weeks later, a week or two later, I was in the mountains with my kids. It was just me and my boys, and we were climbing up this mountain, and we were totally off trail, blazing our own trail, And we stopped to take a breather, and I was just sitting there. I was looking out over the world and looking back at my kids, and it was just such a beautiful moment, And I looked down at my feet, and there was this keychain, and it just looked weird, and it was just a random place, So I was curious, like always, so I picked it up, and I turned it over, and there was this little bubble, and over these words, and it wasn't even typed properly. It looked all weird, but it said, "You matter." And I was like, no way, like this is definitely some kind of sign, I'm just here with my kids, and I matter. Like this has to be a message from the divine, right? So anyways, when I opened my third eye, I wasn't even sure what that was or what I was doing. Like I said, it took me a while to like totally figure it all out. And I'm still actually today, able to learn now even more, like super detailed stuff now that we didn't even have access to a couple years ago. So my next book is going to be even more detailed about this physical process, and it should be a medical breakthrough, because if they start incorporating this stuff into medicine, it will help heal the body and help rejuvenate the body, all kinds of stuff. It could help with mental health, all kinds of stuff. But everyone is cutting out God. Everyone is cutting out consciousness and saying it doesn't exist. It's not measurable. Well, but then they're saying you're conscious, right? So it doesn't even make sense what is coming out of their own mouth. Well, it doesn't exist. It's not measurable, but you are conscious. You know what? Okay. So if it's a third of the equation, so you have to have energy and matter, and they're all a third. It's all equal. So if you can measure energy, and remember, they couldn't measure energy at first either. Oh, that's just invisible, So now they can measure it. So we just don't have the tools to measure consciousness. So if consciousness is a third, energy is a third, matter is a third, and you can measure energy and matter, then that automatically implies the size of the third. So it is measurable. It's known. It's able to be known. So plus there's the double slit experiment. There's brain heart coherence test and stuff that they've done. So consciousness is measurable, just people don't want to admit it, because all of this comes back to, okay, if God is real and we are going to experience God now firsthand while you're alive, then why does bad things happen? Why does God let bad things happen? And it comes down to self-responsibility. It all comes down to self-responsibility, and people can't handle that. And I've always said that. That's the biggest hurdle, because when you look at you, all of a sudden you have to look at yourself and how you're behaving, how you're acting. What are you causing in the universe to happen? And there's no one to blame. There's no one else. You can't blame God, because God is part of everything, and he gave us free will. So if there's one person that does a bad thing to a group, right? It's not that God isn't protecting the group. It's that all of us have free will. This person has free will to do good or bad, and they chose bad. So that's not God not protecting these people, right? Everyone has free will. Okay, say you get hit by a tornado. You have the free will not to live in that area. I mean, we live in a it's stable. People think it's unstable, but it's actually stable, but it's a living environment, right? And we know tornadoes occur in certain areas, especially around certain times of the year. So it's our fault because we have the free will that we're living there. People want someone to blame for bad things, and they want someone to blame for things going wrong in their life, and it's their own fault, and even and it's hard, man. It's hard to accept that, right? So even if you're innocent and you end up in prison for a crime, that doesn't mean that necessarily, okay, you're innocent of that crime, but maybe your behavior led people to believe, maybe you could have done it. Or, I don't know, there's all kinds of crazy stories about people being innocent and locked up. Why is that happening to them? And again, maybe they did something in their life. Who knows? Maybe they didn't. But the people doing that to them also have free will. Right? Like in my particular case, they knew that I was innocent and they made up things and they hid things. And so that's not God doing it. They have the free will to do that to me. Right? So does that make sense? I hope so. And all of this is about meeting God and meeting the divine. Like I keep saying, I had no idea that that's what it's about. I had no idea that I was going to be out here trying to teach people how to experience God. That was not on my playbook for life. But here we are. And that is what opening your third eye is really about. It's really about meeting the divine. The people are separating Christianity and spirituality and all these religions when really they all belong together. And they talk about a one world religion, and I agree with that, but the problem is that they want to make it up under misleading instructions that aren't going to really let you experience God. If you look around the world, consciousness is out of the equation. We're not experiencing God as a collective. And it shows, right? Because our country is in turmoil. Not our country, the world is in turmoil. Because God isn't present. And we're not connecting all three parts of the equation. Okay, we have to plug back in. And plug back into consciousness, complete the circuit, and experience God collectively. And that's how this is going to change. It's obvious to me. And when you try to open your third eye, you naturally have to follow these same rules that are laid out in Christianity, where you have to not live in sin. They're the same rules. You can't go out and be a scumbag and be like trying to sleep with your neighbor's wife or rob your neighbor or something and think that you're going to ascend. It doesn't work that way. And you're not going to meet the divine. And even if you do ascend, it's not a guarantee that you're going to meet the divine. You're definitely going to have an experience and you're going to be able to live a certain way, but very few people actually get to meet the Creator face to face. You have to be pure of heart, and that doesn't mean perfect, so don't get it twisted. All right, I'm not perfect by any means by any stretch of the imagination. But I do have a pure heart, and that's the thing right there. But I don't know. It's just so weird to me that that I'm the one that's like, hey guys, like, we need to make a real connection to God. And that's, I guess, what I noticed when I was a kid, is that these people just don't have this real connection going on here. It's missing. you know? And I guess that's why I was led to this discovery, is because that's what, you know, I always wanted to I always wanted to know the truth. And searching for the truth leads to God. It leads to knowing that reality is conscious living entity, a being that we're inside of, we're part of. We are it. We are it. It can't exist without us. We are the fusion point of the consciousness, energy, and matter, this experience. And I don't think that those people that are separating themselves realize, right? So the Christians need the spiritual, physical aspects. And a lot of those are twisted anyways. So we all need to come together in truth, right? So like the spiritual people have to realize the truth about what chakras really are, these pumps. The Christians need to realize that, hey, there's this physical third eye thing going on that's all part of this, right? And Jesus is really this thing inside you. And it's part of it. It's not, we're not trying to destroy Christianity. We're trying to fulfill the law, right? There's more. You're missing the whole doing part. And you think that it's donating $100 to a charity. That's not it, homie. That's not doing anything. It's not doing anything, okay? First of all, you have to do this physical thing inside. Second, when it comes to energy and stuff like that, it's you. It is you. You can pray all you want that someone's going to help this homeless person outside your home. But until you walk your ass out there and do it, ain't nothing going to happen, because you have to put energy towards it. Right? Go out there and help the person. That's your job. Don't walk by. It's your job to help this person. That's what's missing. You have to make the world better yourself, because you are part of God. You are a piece of God experiencing itself. And it's not going to get better here unless you do something about it. You literally, physically do something about it. You can sit here and wish and pray all you want. When I was on death row, I was innocent, but I wasn't going to get out of there just magically without something happening in reality. Luckily, I had a lawyer that wrote an appeal, right, and made something happen here in reality. It wasn't just magic. I didn't just magically float through the bars and release myself, right? I had a physical process I had to go through. And I'm not saying that the divine didn't help in any way or like encourage people or something. Like, I've been led to do things. So, maybe some people were led to do things in that situation too. I'm not saying they weren't. All I'm saying is that someone had to put forth energy to manipulate matter in order for that to occur. Right? Do you understand that? So if you're not doing anything, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. And this, I've said it before and I'll say it again, is that this whole, you have to work on the dark night of the soul nonsense is just nonsense. That will happen naturally after you go through this. Of course, you have to work on yourself a little bit. I'm not saying that, but the dark night of the soul is very drastic, and it's just something that happens to you. You're going to go through this crazy moment during this metamorphosis change that you're going to go through after this chrism oil that you're not going to have any control over. And some things are going to come up as you go through this change. It's not what people are telling you. You don't choose to go through the dark night. You don't You're not like, oh, it's doing drugs for the last 5 years. That was my dark night. I've heard that before. That's not what that is. That's just you messing up, doing drugs for the last 5 years, disconnected from source, not completing the circuit, right? And I know because I've been there. So I'm not just talking out my ass. I've had my own problems, just trying to deal with reality. And that's what led me down this path anyways, is trying to figure out what is real anyways, because there's so much garbage out there. It's insane. And they don't tell you that when you are trying to study to learn how to open your third eye. They don't tell you that this leads to God. They don't tell you that this leads to divinity or anything like that. They kind of let you just figure it out on your own. And I was really confused when I started reading about things that were supposed to be about opening your third eye or about magic or something, and they're talking about angels and stuff. And I was like, what? How is this all tied in? What does this have to do with Christianity? I thought we were way over here. And because they know it's all connected. It's all connected. The cathedrals even are replications of the body. What do they call this? A dome. You have your dome. And what is in a cathedral is a dome. And it always has a little round people at the top. So it's all about your body. It's all about this internal process and your reality and what you are doing. So God is real. Take some self-responsibility and change the world yourself. Okay? I love you, my friends. Till next time.